Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror PSA presented by Scary Nerd, and as always, we are your hosts. I'm Paul.
I'm Saul.
And I'm Angie.
The following is a public service announcement.
A couple's relationship is tested when uninvited guests arrive at their home, disrupting their tranquil existence. That's right, we watched the 2017 Darren Aronofsky film Mother. Okay, so I didn't listen to any of the things that were out about the movie. This is the first time I've watched it. I didn't look anything up specifically because I didn't want it to spoil my experience, but I did afterwards and asked Saul, Kim, and Angie not to look anything up about the movie so we can kind of get where they thought everything meant. So, Saul, let's start with you. What did you think going in?
Right off the bat, it, to me, kind of transformed into another movie, and later on when I thought more about it, the best thing I can compare it to was a more darker, twisted version of Groundhog Day. That's what I took it as. But overall, my first impression of the movie, up until probably the middle part of the movie, I was fine with it. After everything started shitting hitting the fan, I'm like, this is terrible. This is bad. It's lost me.
Angie, what did you think?
I didn't really know much about it beforehand. So going into it, I was just like, okay, it's a story about him and her. But even when you first start the movie and he has the crystal, you're like, okay, none of this is real. And so that kind of changed my whole perception of it. But at times, I was still kind of following along their story. And like early on, I was like, why is she being like this? Like, I was getting really frustrated. I was like, nope, this would not happen. But then towards the end, I was like, okay, this is where they're going with it. And once I got where they were going with it, I was like, okay, I can enjoy this for what it is.
So where did you think they were going with it at the end? So what okay, for both of you, what did you think? I mean, obviously there's a lot of symbolism, obviously there are metaphors in the movie. What did you guys individually think that the message was, I guess, of the movie?
He's in hell.
To me, it was
the main character's in hell.
Yeah.
To me, it was
it was his personal hell.
Yes.
To me, it was a version of that. Like, to me, it seemed like it was a Groundhog Day version, to where he's going to keep doing these things until he realizes he's fucking up. And when he realizes he's fucking up, is when everything restarts.
That's interesting that you say that, because all right. Do you guys want me to tell you what the movie, like what they meant it? Because there's after it came out and after a while, and people were kind of confused. Because I remember when it was first coming out, and they would show little glimpses of like teasers and things like that. They really weren't showing you what the movie was fully about. A lot of people, and specifically because they made a poster that was an exact replica of the Rosemary's Baby movie poster. So a lot of people thought this was like a Rosemary's Baby remake, and that's what I thought initially, but then I never saw it when it came out. People were like, oh, it's totally different. It's not what you expect.
The only thing I remember hearing about this is how it made a shit ton of people's list on worst movies ever made.
It was either you loved it or hated it.
Yeah, that's the only thing I remember hearing going into
even
it.
reading the reviews on IMDb, a lot of people, it's either like 9 or 10s or 1s or 2s. Like there's no in between.
Well, the thing is, on IMDb, it's rated high. If you read it off if you go off the Amazon Prime, it's like 2.5 stars, something like that. So you're right with it bouncing around to what people think of it. I'm okay with Paul revealing what the movie ultimately being about, though. But like I said, what I took of it is the Groundhog Day situation. If he didn't keep fucking up, shit wouldn't restart.
Well, see, and I disagree. I feel like this is just where he is.
You think because it's his personal hell or
it's
whatever
his personal
that he has
hell.
to keep.
This is what is going to be doing for eternity. He's going to have something and then lose it forever and ever and ever.
Okay, I mean you could technically, you're both kind of right. So do you want me to tell you guys?
Go ahead.
So it is all about him. Obviously, is God, and Mother is in Mother Earth, and he creates man. And in the scene where he's taking the rib, he creates woman the next day who shows up. Their sons are Cain and Abel. When the son dies and they do that thing, the sink happens. That's the great flood. She kicks man out of her house.
Out of Eden, yeah.
And they have the baby, and she thinks everything's happy. So it's one of those things where, like you're saying, Saul, and kind of both of you, like I said, you're both kind of right in the fact that it's like, God he creates man, gives it free will. It fucks everything up, ends up killing Mother Earth. God has to start over again, and he keeps doing this. So we can get really fucking far into this to be like,
it seems like we can go down the rabbit hole really,
yeah,
really
I mean,
quick
you can really easily. And I read a bunch of stuff afterwards, and the stuff that Aronofsky and Lawrence said about it in interviews. They're like, all right, well, here's what it is, and like that. So everything is just basically, it's a huge metaphor, like a really quick metaphor of like our existence, you know, with God and Mother Earth, and then when man is created, and how basically we fucked everything up, and how who knows if we're gonna, you know, this is maybe it's not the second coming of Christ, maybe it's just he comes to fucking, you know, clean it all up again, start over. So I mean, who knows? We're maybe on the 7th iteration of this fucking thing. If you
that makes me honestly, that makes me like the movie less. And I'm like, ugh.
Yeah,
it makes me understand a little bit more now, because now that you say that, I can see all of the symbolism in it now. Because when you watch it for what it's worth, again, without knowing any of these things, where it was following me was up until he came up, well, before the baby was born. Like when she kicked everybody out, because the one thing that was frustrating and pissing me off, and this is just looking at it as a normal person. Yeah. Why the fuck would you let all those people inside your damn house?
Yeah, I think very quickly, like, you kind of feel that way. Like at first it's kind of like, you know, all right, well, it's the middle of the night. This guy thought it was a bed and breakfast. Like, okay, let the guy stay the night. You know, it's a nice thing to do or whatever. But as it kind of escalated, I don't even care if it's a nice thing to do. You meet somebody that you've never known that's going to come to your house in the middle of the night. Well, it kind of escalated from there, and that's when I was like, okay, what the hell? Like this, okay, now like this has to mean something. It's not just face value that it's just this weird thing. Like it's not that. Because for the longest time in the movie, I kept thinking too, I was like, is it doing that Rosemary's Baby angle to where like he's in a weird cult and she doesn't know, and then, you know, they bring up a baby and all that. So I'm like, it might be taking that turn. And then as it went on, I was like, all right, never mind. I get it now. I got it later. I think sometime after the brothers killed each other, and I was like, all right,
for me, it was
Bible
when she
thing.
cleans up the crime scene and then just puts a throw rug on top of it. Yeah, that was for me. I'm like, okay, this isn't real.
But looking at it now that you're saying she's Mother Earth just having to clean up after humans or whatever, like it makes sense. Like,
that's.
Like I said,
I liked my version better, where it's just hell.
It's just hell.
Well, that's why I think that's interesting, because is this maybe we are God's personal hell if we want to get all fucking religious on this and
well,
things.
I
like,
don't.
Yeah.
And
but
I liked my version better.
Well,
where he's just stuck in hell. I'm not arguing this with you.
I'm saying
stuck in hell.
Yeah, but I'm saying maybe we are God's hell. His
that's
thing.
your opinion.
It's the scene in Upgrade where it's like your creation has come to kill you kind of thing. It's a whole cyclical fucking thing like that. All right, so let's talk about the fucking movie, I guess. Now that it's spoiled for all of you guys.
We don't have to talk about the stupid symbolism of the movie. Jennifer Lawrence stars in this movie as every passive-aggressive white woman ever.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is we can just have people come over and no one will say anything.
She doesn't say anything.
That's the thing that was pissing me off as the movie kept going on.
And
all these people just showing up.
I thought it was so funny because Jennifer Lawrence, her faces are way too harsh for the words she was saying. Like when Michelle Pfeiffer comes over and she says something, like she gives her this look like, bitch, I will end you. But she just goes, excuse me.
Yeah.
Like your face doesn't match your lines there.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Like it was in the laundry scene maybe, or
maybe.
It was during that whole scene where the two of them were together or whatever. But I kind of got that too. Like I kind of think that she did that as a choice though. Like she was kind of like, look at my face, but I'm going to still be nice because, you know, you're his guests, and you know he didn't consult me and all this and all that, but I'm gonna be nice to you to a certain extent. And then when she just fucking loses her shit, I think that's when finally, like,
even then, the one thing I kept taking was like, there's way too many people in this giant ass house to be just having coming in willy nilly. I'm like, kick those fuckers out. Mm-hmm. I was getting pissed. I'm like, all these fuckers just keep showing up after the sun dies, and then everybody starts coming over for the funeral. I'm like, fuck this. I understand that you guys are mourning and shit, but now you're taking advantage of a situation that you guys just kind of lucked in, and you're making this house pretty much your own now by having everybody come over.
Yeah, I did like some of the effects in this movie, that when in the beginning, when they defire everything, I liked that. I thought that was cool. And then when she's having her her spells, we'll call them.
I don't know what that was about. Like,
yeah,
not
what
her
was
episode.
that about?
Okay,
Do you know?
they didn't explain it to me, or they didn't explain it like specifically. They basically just gave the general overview that it the boys are Cain and Abel, the Great Flood. This is about
What the
God
fucking
and this.
paint was she drinking?
Okay, they didn't really explain that, but I looked that up. The yellow shit. A lot of people are assuming that it's a subtle reference to a short story from like the late 1700s, early 1800s called The Yellow Wallpaper. And that short story, I just kind of read just a general overview of that. It is about a man and a woman that live in an old colonial house. And
Is it the postpartum depression one?
it didn't say if it was that.
I think I read this short story.
I don't remember if it was postpartum depression, but like she's kind of like crazy or something because she thinks like there's someone in the yellow wallpaper that's coming out, and then at the end of the short story, it's like she is now the person that came out, like it's inhabited her kind of thing. So it's like a subtle nod to that everyone like that's what everyone assuming is what's going on, but Aronofsky, I don't think he's ever said anything about that specific about the yellow
that's the
stuff.
Only thing I couldn't figure out.
That
I
is the
took
only
it
thing I
as
couldn't
she
either.
was. You know how what is it in back old timey times when they used to drink opioids for pain relief?
Oh yeah.
You thought she was just getting high?
I thought she was just getting high.
Well, no, when after I read what it was about, I thought, okay, wasn't there some sort of like biblical elixir like in the heavens that they would drink, like angels would drink or something? I mean, I don't know. So I was like, maybe I just made that shit up, but that's what I kind of took it as. But I think her episodes, in my opinion, now knowing what everything is about, I think her episodes happened because the first time she had one, it was she was making the tea or whatever.
Yeah, so it's when anybody shows up and drives a wedge.
It's like he created man, and now man is here, and now it's violating the earth already.
Yeah.
So she felt that. And then when she hid the lighter behind the dresser, she was affecting man's free will, so that affected earth, whatever. So I just kind of took it that it was when either they affected her as earth or whatever, or she was affecting man in a way that affected their free will and all the gifts that he gave them, kind of thing. So
yeah.
That's how I took those, but the yellow shit is never really fully explained.
Like I said, I just thought it was an opioid. Because remember, you guys have seen Tombstone, right?
Yeah.
Remember how he gave him that bottle thing, whatever he needed?
His wife.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. It was just.
Yeah, I could see that. And
she was
it
just in
looked like
pain.
the bottles that she was mixing with the spackle shit, the paint shit she was making.
It was the same exact bottles.
Yeah.
That's what I thought too.
So I was like, is she drinking paint?
Well, it was like a paint powder then. Like I don't know.
Well, whatever it is, I thought she was just getting high.
Well,
in
the spackle thing, okay, everything, like having seen it again after I read everything, I was looking at things, and I probably went way too far into this, but she is always wearing like grays and browns, like earth tones.
Yeah.
It's always earth tones. Her hair is always kind of like
pulled back.
It's kind of up but messy.
Yeah.
So it's like it looks like not like just messy, but it is kind of still messy. She decided, Jennifer Lawrence as an actress decided that she was going to be barefoot the whole time. So
that would suck.
In every movie, well, she's in the house the whole time.
Still though,
but she wanted to be barefoot because it's kind of like her
Step on a
character
Lego.
is they don't have kids.
I don't care. They're gonna have kids. They had one.
Well, then she'll put some fucking shoes on when the Legos introduced into the house.
I'm just like having a really hard time with that. That's what the movie is about. I'm super bummed because the movie was so much better when it was my own version.
So your version, you thought it was a better movie. It was just like she was.
It's darker.
Like that she was just what? Like, or no, you said it was his hell.
It was his hell, and so it was just a constant string of him. Nothing was ever enough for him.
Well, maybe
and he
that
was meant to burn everything down. I'm not arguing this with you.
I'm saying maybe that's
it.
maybe that's what Aronofsky means. Like God's not perfect either. He's just doing this shit, and we're just along for the ride. We don't know what the fuck we're doing either. Whatever. I don't know. We'll have to ask Aronofsky one.
I'm gonna go with Groundhog Day until he realizes that he's being a selfish prick. Shit's gonna keep going the same way it's gonna go.
Yeah, and think about all the times where they did something like when he freaks out after they break the crystal.
Yeah.
But then, like 2 seconds later, when he's boarding it up, he's like, "They'll never get in here again." Like he closes the gates to heaven or whatever. Because I took The Office as heaven.
I kind of took The Office as the Garden of Eden. Now that you say that,
well, okay, I don't know. I'm not fucking religious at all. I never paid attention in fucking Sunday school. So wasn't the Garden of Eden like? It wasn't Earth, but it wasn't heaven. Like it was like
in between.
It was heaven adjacent, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was a
maybe
paradise limbo. I don't know. Are you gonna say anything?
Nope. I'm still mad.
You ruined the movie for her, and this is
Why did
hilarious.
I ruin the fucking movie for you? I didn't
movie
make it. I didn't say
She's
what it was about.
mad.
Not
All right,
enjoying
fine.
this.
Then let's come up with our own alternatives about what the fucking movie's about.
Angie, man, this is awesome.
I will say
economic systemization.
no. Ugh. I did say that I hated the camera work in this film. I was like, stop following her around. I'm going to puke. This is not a found footage movie. We don't need to run with the action.
There were some shots that I was like iffy on that, and I think that's the one thing I didn't like either. Was when they kept following her from that weird shaky cam thing. Like,
Yeah, it was almost like they like in the beginning shots when she's looking around the house and they do that kind of like that twirl thing where they're following her. Those were very like horror elements, like camera movements and angles to me.
But
So
they were in scenes,
But I know,
though.
like, but it's almost like they did that on purpose. So when they cut the trailer, it could look like a horror movie without you thinking like, oh, it's about God and all
They
this
did a
other shit.
bait and switch, those bastards.
It's false advertising is what I'm getting at.
I feel like it's, I don't know, now that it's like, oh, it's God and Mother Earth, I'm like, oh, it's so douchey.
So your rating went down from what were you before?
yeah, where were you before? Did you like the movie? not knowing this?
you guys were talking, we were talking about how it was like either you loved it or hated it, and I
Yeah.
was a solid meh.
You're like
You're like a man. Now
Yeah.
You're
you're
in the
actually-
middle, so now you see. No,
And now I'm like,
see, there's no
ugh.
middle. Now that you know what it's about, you're
Yeah.
like, nope, fuck that. I'm two now.
Now I'm like, it's preachy, and now it's just gross, and
It is. And I think that's what a lot of people didn't like about it. Like
Yeah.
you were almost duped into fucking sitting through church kind of thing.
yes, like
Oh, yeah.
show me a personal hell. That's interesting. You
The-
know what
the-
I mean? Like
Interesting fact: the Jehovah's showed up to Saul's
they
house
did
just before
right as
recording
we
our
pulled up to
podcast.
record.
And I'm like, oh, you should come in and have this. We
this
should have had them come
conversation.
in and be guests on our
Oh,
podcast.
they were
no.
old biddies. They wouldn't have made it through.
That would have been fun. No, because they would have been like, all these religious questions I had, they would have been like, well, Paul, in the Garden of Eden. And they would have been able to answer these fucking
Yeah,
They
questions.
wouldn't
could've
have.
been
None of
consulted.
those
That.
people have answers, Paul.
I'm not telling
Don't
you.
act like they
I'm not
do.
saying they would have
could've
told
been
me what the
consultants.
fucking movie's about, but I'm saying my religious questions would be like, I think
Yeah,
the Garden of
and I'm
Eden.
saying those people don't have answers to your religious questions.
They read the
Paul.
Bible at least once, so they
You
can tell
don't
me
know
what
that.
they-
You
okay.
don't know that. And
You're right. They were case in the house for
no,
crime.
Better
okay.
not have been.
You could have read a book 10 years ago. Tell me what it's about.
Well,
The Cat in the Hat.
Yeah,
pick
so
the book.
just because they read
About
the
a cat
Bible
in the
once
hat.
in their life
All right,
doesn't
so
mean
the
they
Cat
know
in the
shit.
Hat, there's these kids that it's raining and they're stuck at home.
See,
You
he's
read
prolific.
Cat in the Hat 10 years ago.
And no, but I read it longer than 10 years ago and I still remember it. So
No, you saw the
so
movie
boo.
recently.
So
Doesn't
boom
count.
to you.
Doesn't count. You saw the movie
Boom,
recently.
roasted. No, doesn't count. The movies never follow the book 100%. All right,
Yeah.
so I didn't say like
It's
there's
about
a,
the kids in
I
the
didn't
rainy
say,
house.
I
so-
didn't say there's a big fat lady that they play trampoline on and all that shit because it's not in the book. All right,
Yeah, they took liberties in the movie.
no more big Taiwanese government.
Yes.
So what was that hemorrhoid the guy puked up?
I don't know. That I looked up specifically too, and people are like, well, it kind of looks like a heart, but it kind of looks like something else, so no one really knows what that is.
No, it's a hemorrhoid that popped. Is
It's a
what it was.
hemorrhoid. See, he gives his rib up to bring woman, and then he gets hemorrhoids. Yeah.
See, now knowing a lot of the stuff that you just said, I'm kind of with Angie now too. Is it just seems like we were duped into
You were
watching-
duped into going
Yes.
to church.
Yes.
It's like, hey, it's like, oh, here's what it is. Like, you go to one of those timeshare presentations,
Oh,
right?
no.
Thinking,
That is affordable.
Thinking you're thinking you're gonna hear about this awesome vacation club, but it's like instead we'll give you this 2-night stay if you come and listen to our presentation. But then it's about God. You're like, what the fuck, man? I wanted to learn about Hawaii vacations.
Like, you
Jesus.
bastards fooled me, and I'm not happy.
So
Yeah.
that's how you feel. That's like that
That's
scenario.
how I feel. Yes.
I'm kind of getting to that
So
point
I'm
because,
like,
like I said,
meh.
it's everything that I didn't like about the movie starts adding up now when you realize what it was about. Because when they started jumping around towards the end, I'm like, what the fuck is all of this shit?
Well, see, I just thought that was hell scenario, right? Because it's just chaotic.
Well, I
Like,
thought
it's
part of
just-
that might have been hell. You remember when she was gonna get out of the side of the house, like the soldier had died. That was
Yeah.
a fucking awesome
Yeah,
death, though.
the
I do
shot
have
to
to
the
say like
face,
that.
yeah.
He was like medic, pff, jaw just gone, right? So after she's crawling out to like the outside of the house where she sees those other people, and then he comes back and grabs her. when they go to that one room where like it's like refugees like post-war and they're all just sitting there and they're like, oh, he hasn't forsaken us, and they try to like get him.
Yeah,
I kind of took that like maybe that was hell in this scenario, now that the house had transformed into all this like multi-level of shit, which further made me think the office was heaven because he takes her back there and she's safe. And
no,
blah,
see, I
blah,
just
blah.
assumed the whole house was hell, and like as long as he stayed there with her, everything was fine. But he could never allow that, and so his own personal hell was seeing everything destroyed over and over and over again.
Which takes me back to Groundhog Day. Unless he realizes everything that he fucks up.
I don't remember. Okay, so there's only one time where they show he goes to the third floor or whatever. There's only one time that anyone ever goes up there, and it's just him by himself.
Yeah.
There's only a couple times, I think, when people are on that second level in the other rooms, not including the office.
And she's like, can you go downstairs?
Yeah, and if you think about every time that it's like, she's like, this is our room or whatever, and the guy's like, yeah, your room. Because it's like, no, he said we could have this. He said everything's for us. Like, that whole religious fucking thing, like, I created this for you kind of thing. And that's kind of went along with his character and how he played it. And it's just like, where are they going to go?
See, just knowing that pisses me off even more.
We're talking about then, because they're like, you know what this is. So I assumed like that was a nod to being like, none of this is real, and you're not going to be here much longer. And like,
when the one that killed the other brother, when he came back and was like, good luck.
even the first one, he's like, what are any of us doing here?
Well, yeah, we'll think about it like that's one of those religious fucking questions anyone ever fucking has.
It makes it douchier.
So yeah, if you watch this movie, see, okay, I think
this movie started to piss me off even more so
I think
too,
I'm not as mad about the movie as you guys because I figured it out. No, because I figured it out. No, when I finally figured it out, I think fully, like, I had a clue around when the brothers killed each other, but then when I finally figured it out, when I was like, when he brings the baby down there, and I was like, okay, well, if the baby dies, and then I'm like, all right, yeah, it's Jesus. Yeah, all right, that makes sense. I'm like, this whole fucking thing, and that's when I kind of went back and was like, yeah, okay, that's what it's about.
No. See, I wasn't. That's like I said, when watching the movie, not knowing what it was, it seemed like it was going to be two different movies to me. Because, like, I mean, to me, where I liked it was up until when she got pregnant and right before she had the baby. Everything right there made sense to me.
You just don't want to see Jennifer Lawrence pregnant. And you're like, no, she was hot till before then. Now she's a manatee.
No, to me, looking at this movie, is like everything added up to there. It's like, okay, everything seems fine. They had the kid, so now everything's back to normal. And then after the pregnancy happened, like everything went to shit. And I'm like, okay, now this movie has completely lost me. But now that I know why it lost me, it makes more sense. Which again,
and see, I wrote a note. It says turns into an acid trip real quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have so had another thought. There's one point where when everybody's coming into the house, when they're celebrating or whatever, towards the end, when she's all dressed up and everybody's coming to the house, and there's this guy. He looks homeless who like grabs a blanket and he's like, I'm just gonna sleep, and like lays down. And I was like,
this is my house.
I was like, well, maybe it's like she's a crazy woman living in some weird flop house and like he's the drug dealer, so like everybody starts worshiping him. Like I went off on my ideas are way better than what this is actually about. And like she's gonna wake up to find like she's some old lady who's actually just a drug addict and who's crazy.
Just living in like an abandoned building somewhere, and he just comes around.
And that's why everybody's just crazy. And everybody, and she's like, "Can you get off my sink?" Like,
it would explain why, like, he just comes and goes without you never seeing him.
Yes, so like this. See, my idea is way better. Boo.
Yeah.
Boo.
I'm gonna go back to the whole thing that kept pissing me off was that all these people just kept showing up.
And why would she pick that room as her baby's room? I don't know. Maybe just another room in the house that didn't have a murder.
Okay, but think about this though: if she is Mother Earth and the house is representative of that, then if someone gets murdered on this ground, you can never take that away. How much you clean. It metaphorically speaking, like, sure, we replace this and that, but then as the wound is still there, like, you're never going to be able to undo the murder that happened there. Yeah. And I think that's the metaphor that they were going for in that
scene.
So
what was the metaphor with her looking into the house? Like, I assumed that meant, like, the love of him and her.
Well, it was a heart for sure.
Yeah.
And I kind of just took it as she was gauging how, the planet is doing or something. I don't know. It just...
That's stupid because she's like, you just loved how much I loved you. That didn't make any fucking sense then. Because the earth can't love anybody. This is stupid.
But
I'm
she's
mad.
representative of Earth as like an actual mother.
Stupid.
Yeah. We're destroying our planet.
Damn hippie movie.
And then just cover this whole murder up with this nice throw rug. It'll be just fine.
Well, again, if you are a drug addict living in an abandoned building, it's not like you can find another abandoned building where someone wasn't murdered.
Well,
Yeah.
that's fine. Be a drug addict in an abandoned building.
Well, I'm saying that if in your theory of this movie, then how is she gonna, clean up that, the abandoned building where some guy murdered some other
So you're
guy?
telling me that God goes off on a hike with that dude? With man?
Well, think about this, Angie.
They go
At
hiking.
the same time, the woman was like, "Give me a tour."
Oh, no. She was definitely there to drive a wedge.
No,
She was-
okay. I took that as almost on your drug theory.
Yeah.
Because how she was like, "You got any painkillers?" And then she was like, "Are you going? You're not lying to me,
No.
are you?"
Yeah.
Are you
Because
sure?
to me that was like you're almost like, which plants around here can get me high? Like think of it, you're banished, you're in Garden of Eden or whatever, and you're asking like, which plants can get me high? Like she wanted to get high for sure. So then finally she's like, take me on a tour, and I think I wrote down like, let's see what I can find that I can inebriate myself with, because if you think about it, the first time that Ed Harris shows up as a man, he brings alcohol with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's automatic, like they're already like, we're corrupt and we want to get high and drunk, and it's a full thing. So there is the drug elements in there. So let's go with your version to where they're all just living in an abandoned
all
house.
just living in a flop
It's an
house.
abandoned warehouse
They're
in
all
the city
crazy
somewhere
on
where you would
drugs.
find, like if you were looking for drugs or hobos or both, that's where you would go. That's where they live.
I have two questions on Michelle Pfeiffer's character, though. What was the deal with them fucking after one of her kids just died, and they pretty much
That was
lost the
before
other
the
one?
kids
It's
died.
like a lust thing, right?
That was before
it was
the kids
before
died.
the
Was it before
kids
he got
died.
killed?
Yeah.
It was after they smashed the crystal.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
When they destroyed that, and then at the
Well,
end,
yeah, because think about it, like it just, now that they're not, I took that as like, now that they've been banished from the Garden of Eden and heaven and all that,
Yeah.
they are on Earth and they're corruptible man, and now they're just gonna do what they want. So
because they did
wanted
that,
to
they had
fuck.
like no remorse, and all of a sudden they start fucking, and then they're like,
Yeah.
leave us alone."
It's symbolic of how shitty people are, I guess.
And then the one thing that I was waiting for was for Michelle Pfeiffer to get her revenge, because when she kicked them out, like
yeah, she gave her
everybody
that
else-
death stare.
She gave her that death stare. I was like, oh, they're showing that death stare, and Michelle
Yeah.
Pfeiffer is going to come back and she's going to kill her. But no.
Yeah, but at
Damn
that
it.
point I was still thinking like, is it still like the Rosemary's Baby thing? Are they going to come back and like? Yeah, I was sticking with that theory for the longest time until like, because like, the brothers made me think, but then I was like, all right, well, if there's any more evidence, and then once the whole baby thing happened, and then when he came down, I was like, if he says anything about forgiveness, then I know for 100% sure it's the God thing. And then he was like, we have to figure out how we can forgive them. And I was like, what? Okay, yeah, it's
There
the
was
God
just a
thing.
bunch of other
Forget
stuff that
it.
were pissing me off too. And the one thing that Kim and I looked at each other too is like, after Jennifer Lawrence and that other dude banged them, like, she's pregnant. I was like, how the fuck do you know that right away?
Yeah.
She's like, I'm pregnant.
It
She's
was.
like,
Earth.
So some of the things. So we're supposed to believe that Mother Earth was like, get off my sink. It's not braised yet.
Well,
Like-
but
That's.
no, this sink is a metaphor for other things, I guess.
I'm aware, but that's the metaphor they went with, is Mother Earth saying, get off my sink. It's not been braised yet.
Well-
That's the one they chose.
Well, you had to make it fit to
See
the
how
house
much
shit.
douchier?
He had to make it fit to the house shit. It wasn't like, don't take a bath in my bathtub.
Oh, yeah, and they had a very eat the young thing at the end.
they just had so many weird things. They started painting her house.
The
like,
body of Christ.
No, it's eat the young.
they started
the,
painting the house, and they're like, what are you doing? It's like, we're painting your house. You've been holding
Yeah,
us.
what was with the weird, like when she's going through the house, I think it was after she was going through the house, and there was the weird like dance thing, not the rave scene later, but the
Yeah.
one where they have like they're like banging like ding ding.
Oh, yeah,
and
they're,
and they're
like,
like
yeah.
chanting and like
With the
like,
original
jumping. Yes, and like
thing,
he's got
yeah.
it in that golden like frame or whatever. And we're like, that's fucking like, yeah, okay.
It's just weird. Now that you know what it is,
Okay.
it's just weird, and I'm kind of getting on Angie's pages, and this
Okay,
movie's pissing me
listen,
off.
listen how just, like, it's so, I don't even
Say
know
it.
what to say.
Say it.
So the metaphor that they went with is that this creator is a writer, and he published something, and
Well,
now
he
he's
made-
coming. Like it's
he made
ugh.
the word of God.
Well, no, like
And then
no. Look
Kristen
at the
Wiig
metaphor
is the
they
herald
use.
that
No, look at the
announces shit.
metaphor that they use. Okay, it's not that they're talking about God and the angels, right?
Okay.
They're talking about a publicist. Was she a publicist?
Yeah, publicist.
A publicist and a writer. So they're comparing that kind of creation to the creation of our world and God and everything. And to me, it's so douchey. It's so like.
Well, what I read was like she was her name in the credits is Herald, which is the one that says things or announces things or whatever. And the article was like they were like, oh, it's funny that he chose a publicist for that. And I'm like, all right, well, that makes sense if you're doing this whole metaphor if he's a writer and all that shit. Like that's in the real world application, if you're a writer, you got to deal with a publicist or you have that or your publisher or whatever. So yeah,
I find it so
that's
douchey.
where they were going with
it's
that.
It's elitist to me. It's gross.
It's Aronofsky.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I don't know.
And I guess
like,
that just
so
that
he
takes
is.
it. That's what's making me mad. Is it's elitist and it's gross.
I'm starting to get mad too.
Yeah.
I'm starting to stew with this damn movie.
I feel it too. You were looking at me like you're mad at me for something. Like, I didn't fucking.
You just
I didn't,
broke the glass.
You
I
broke
didn't.
the glass.
You're both mad at me for breaking the glass.
I'm not
and
mad
it's
at you.
I should like. Well, next time, fuckers, I will let you go through this whole podcast explaining what you thought it was about.
No,
And be
here's
like,
the-
"All right, well, you're wrong.
Here's the no.
That's
It's not that
dumb.
we're mad at
You're
you.
close.
It's just like.
Well, you both keep
it's-
fucking looking at me like fucking asshole. Like that's the metaphor. I'm like, why are you questioning me? Like I'm the fucking one that wrote this goddamn movie. And so like, here's Jesus.
It's the thing. It's like you said earlier. It's being duped into going to church, and that's the last thing I want to do is get duped into something like that. And now that the wool's been pulled behind the eyes, it's just like really.
And Jennifer Lawrence's character, like, I'm like, you just needed to scream earlier because every time she screamed, people left. Like, anytime she did something, I was like, bitch, start screaming more.
I just started to hate her character more and more.
Angie, it got to a point where Mother Earth was screaming and no one listened.
Well, that's when the floor broke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're killing the Earth.
Let's just okay. So let's talk about
No,
her
here
character
I'm
not
gonna start
knowing
a
what we
prank
know.
show to where it looks like a strip club, but then they come in and it's actually like church. Like if churches look like other things on the
No,
outside.
I just want the strippers to have pamphlets and then start talking about God as they're doing the lap
No,
dances.
there's gotta be a weird like Bible Belt like city ordinance somewhere where it's like
That would be
we're a
hilarious.
strip club. Only thing open on Sundays is church. There's like we're a strip club open on Sundays, but you have to sit and listen to
You
this
have to
sermon.
listen to the sermon first.
Sit and listen to the sermon, and
No,
then you
they
can
just
go
have
to the
to
strip
have.
club.
They just have to have scripture pasted.
It's
Oh, that would be
it's
hilarious.
crosses. It's crosses
It's
with
crosses
the tassels.
over the nips.
That is
Yeah,
a
there you
genius
go.
idea. I say we do it, Paul. Open up a strip club. that
They've
looks
got
like a church.
the sexy nun.
Catholic titties.
There
The
you go.
sexy nun. What's another? Lutheran? What could you do with that? I don't know.
I say we do it.
All right, we need
You get a lot of people that'd be pissed
We need
off. They're like,
funding.
we've
Go
been
to our
duped.
go to our GoFundMe for our Catholic themed strip club.
Catholic titties. Coming soon to an area near you.
Next to Buckingham Palace.
It'll be somewhere under a bridge somewhere.
No, we have to put it where you would think a normal, or no, I guess no, I had that backwards. I say a normal church, but no, a normal strip club under the underpass. Or
Yes,
whatever.
under the underpass.
What's
You can have it
there's
like-
one on Grand Avenue that's under the underpass.
Nobody
Yeah,
knows
there
what
is.
Grand
I don't
Avenue
care.
is.
They'll just know that. Okay, well, if you hear anything, I don't think I've ever seen a Grand Avenue in any state or
Have
city.
you looked for Grand Avenue?
No, but anywhere you
Like
see,
the kind of Grand Avenue
no,
we
like,
have.
and yeah, they're always like that.
I keep thinking about the different like lines she has. And like seeing the metaphors in them, I'm like, it's so gross.
Like what?
Like, I'll go clean up the apocalypse.
I'll go get started on the apocalypse, is what she says. So yeah, I wrote that down. 'Cause I'm like, the frog thing. What did you guys think that meant?
Plagues?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it doesn't say specifically.
I didn't know
anywhere.
what it meant. Like
I didn't
said,
know
that-
what it meant until you
Now.
said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that you can actually look back on it, you probably think it was a play because that's just a random frog. I'm like, how the hell? Kim said it was like, how the hell did that frog survive down there?
Yeah, and the thing looked infinite when she shone the light down there. Like it just went on forever. It looked like
Well, yeah, it didn't seem real.
What was that even supposed to be?
hell.
it was hell. I took it as.
It was hell. It was the tunnel that Bill and Ted have to go through in their bogus adventure.
So
I knew something was up because when the blood went
it
down,
was hell, and then the blood activated the gates to hell.
yeah, because the blood went down, then it did the whole perfect.
The blood light bulb thing was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Turns out all of a sudden, poof.
Side note, our 9-year-old walked into the room during that time. We had to lie and tell him it was paint.
Like, is that blood? And
Yeah.
I'm like,
No, baby.
I wanted to
that's
say yeah. But I'm like, yeah.
You should have just said it's ketchup. They're going to eat it later.
Yes, son. If you put blood on a light bulb and turn it
will
on,
explode.
it's gonna explode.
Oh, that's going to be funny if that happens. He tries to do that.
Paint. I mean paint.
Mm-hmm.
Impressionable.
I thought it was when I first thought that was a septic tank.
I don't know
in
what
there,
it was.
But then when she punctured it and all like the
How
oil
did
came
she
out.
even know that there was oil in there?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things where it's like in the house metaphor, like this is the oil for heating stuff. I don't fucking know.
Well, here's the thing now,
Like,
knowing what we know now, is it kind of makes more sense that thing would be hell because it was right next to the furnace.
Yeah.
Because you would need something to fuel the furnace for the fire. And
was that what that was?
yeah.
So does the herald angel shoot people in the head at some point in the Bible?
See, this is where the old ladies outside would have come in handy.
Because I'm like,
This would have been a 3-hour podcast,
Would
and
you
they
start
probably
executing people?
They probably
Yeah.
would have wanted to.
Now,
pray
like
first.
I said, not knowing what it was then, I'm like, man, she went from like.
and see, I just thought it was like a ravenous hell. Like it was just.
Well, I took a lot of that as like just I mean, I don't know, like just man being man as we are in our history. We start wars because you think like
The history of violence.
like there was protesters, there was like riots, there was looting, there was like the police showed up, and then it was like the soldiers showed up, so it was like leads to war, like protests, then war, and then all this other shit. So
douchey.
interesting side note, Kristen Wiig actually moved stuff around because she wanted to play this part really bad. Like she really wanted to work with Aronofsky, and it was kind of a random, role for her. But I think, it was kind of cool to see her in it though, even.
Yeah, it was weird. She came out of nowhere. Like the only people that I knew of for sure that were in this movie was just Jennifer Lawrence. So when I saw Michelle Pfeiffer and Ed Harris, I'm like, oh.
I had no idea they were in this movie
Yeah,
either.
I
until we
didn't. I
started.
knew that Michelle Pfeiffer was in it because I think I had saw her in one of the teasers when it first came out. In
See,
2017.
I had no idea. So when she showed up, I'm like, oh, cool, she's in it. And then when you see Kristen Wiig, I'm like, oh, okay. And then what else was it? I think it was just those ones that I had no idea that were in it. The only one that I knew that was in it was what's her face, Jennifer Lawrence.
Well, I knew a lot of people were in this except for Emily Hampshire from Schitt's
Yeah.
Creek,
And
who breaks
12
the
monkeys.
sink that wasn't braised.
They were assholes when they did that too.
I mean,
like I
when
said,
we
I'm
watched
like, it's
it,
fine. Look, I can hold my weight.
and they started bouncing on that thing. I'm like, you guys are gonna break. And I knew that was gonna happen. I'm like, oh, they're gonna break it. And then she went ape shit and like kicked everybody
They
out.
won't listen.
yeah, your creation won't listen.
I was starting to be on her side just with all those people in the house. Again,
I mean, I guess I can get on board with this movie if we're just gonna say God's a dumb man.
Well, I mean, maybe that's what I'm saying. Maybe that's what Aronofsky was going for. Like it's flawed because
He's an
man.
idiotic man.
Well, no, but and it's like because of his stupid love for man, then it's just going to keep
that
ruining
wasn't,
things.
No, it wasn't his love for man. It was his love for the attention
yeah, the
of
attention,
man.
the
Yeah,
adoration.
I guess maybe that's what he's going
That's
for.
why he wouldn't make them leave. He didn't want them to leave because
and when he finally says that,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
Because I took it as like it was one of those things too, where he was a struggling writer, knowing what not knowing what it was. To me, it was like, oh, he's a struggling
Well,
writer.
then that's an even funnier metaphor. He's like, God's just a struggling writer that wants credit and
I
attention.
can be a little less mad if that's how I look at it.
Hey, I don't think Aronofsky's like a religious guy, so this might be a big fuck
just
you to
like,
God,
God is
from
a
Aronofsky.
dumbass,
Like,
yeah.
Well, like I said, he's a struggling writer, and now he's actually getting everything that he wanted by all this attention and adoration. It's like, oh, this is what's important to me now, rather than paying attention to what was important to him. Before that was his wife and his soon-to-be-born kid.
Well, see, what I took it as is when I went his own personal hell route, I was like, he needs the mother and the child to create these things, but he always destroys them, and then he doesn't have them. And that's the thing, is you have to have these great moments, but he uses them, and he takes their love, and he destroys it because of his own pride.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what he was going for, because there's a lot of other like the seven sins kind of you see within the interactions of the other people. Like, you know, there's drunk people and everything. The adulterer guy. Like,
Yeah.
like these are all their names like listed in the IMDb cards. Like,
Let's talk about that creepy guy. That dude cracked me up.
The adulterer.
Yeah, when he was talking to her and he's like,
She was
"Oh, what's your name?"
I don't want anything from you.
He's like, "What's your name?" He's like, "Here, let me give you my phone." "I don't want your phone number." And then he just goes off on her. He's like, "Well, fuck you then."
That happens
Yeah, I thought
a
it was
lot
hilarious.
to women.
I thought that it was hilarious. Because I
9
was like,
times out of 10, if you rebuff a dude, they'd be like, "Well, fuck you then," and it's like, "Oh, okay, sweet."
because yeah, you're right. I've seen it happen, and it's
Couldn't tell
hilarious
you I
because
don't
you
get
see how
rebuffed.
you see it happen. I'm like, oh man, this is funny because you know it's like, okay, she's inviting all these people to this house. Obviously, some people know that it's hers, and some people don't know that it's at. And I'm like, this guy has no idea what anybody is, and he's hitting on the wife of the person who owns the house. I just found that part hilarious.
This is the part I found really hilarious. When people are tearing up the house and there's that Native American guy and he's like ripping the molding off the wall.
Proof we were here.
Yeah, and she's like, "What are you doing?" Like, "Proof we were here." And I'm like, "That's right, motherfucker." Like,
I forgot about him.
I didn't realize that until you
yeah.
remembered that.
See?
I do like how the God figure, I guess, was like, she breathed life into all rooms of the house. So it's like, without Earth, there was never a hope for anything else.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, he had to create that, but then he kind of screwed it up. But she was the one that made it what it was. Because if you think about when they were like, "Oh, do you want to have kids?" And she was like, "Well, he's writing a new piece and I have so much work around here to do." She's like, "I want to make this a paradise." She's even said those lines, like in all her
Yeah.
lines. I mean, you can totally see it if you watch it again. Like,
I'm not watching it
Everything's
again. I'm
there.
not getting duped into watching the church
No.
movie again. No. One time is enough for me.
well, then go with a drug addict angle.
In the flop house.
I'm going to go with Groundhog Day. It's a darker version.
It's
of
ground. No, that's the movie. They are drug addicts, and it is Groundhog Day because every day you get up and you try and get your drugs.
Oh, now we're getting
There you
deep.
go.
See, that's at least a better message than this whole.
Well, let's change it then. Let's recut the movie to that then.
We'll just add a new ending.
At the end, it's like they are in just some shit house. Like the police come in. That's actually what those scenes were. It was like police raids. Like people were like, "Get out of this fucking house!" Like they round up the drug addicts in the old abandoned house.
Old abandoned house. Oh, when she finally goes crazy and she's just like, "Fuck this!" Like she starts just fucking stabbing people. It's like, I'm gonna kill
that was
everybody right now.
Was the thing that the guy hit her with the same thing that the brother hit the other brother with?
Yeah,
Was
just
it?
the door handle. Yeah.
No, was it the door handle or just? I thought it was like just some weird thing that they had on the shelf. I don't think.
No,
it
it was a door handle.
was it the door handle?
Remember when he hits it off the door and it
Yeah, I
falls
remember, but
down?
she puts it on that like
That's
hutch
where he
thing.
grabbed it from.
No, but I
when
thought
he
they
kills
were-
the brother.
Because he put it on the shelf and it rolled off. I remember
I
that.
don't remember.
No.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, sure. It doesn't matter.
That was a
this
cool
movie.
scene though. Like the visuals towards the end of it, where you called it the acid trip. Those were cool. I gotta admit that was cool.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
just like a ravenous hell. I was like, I could get down on this because, like, you've got the whole weird imagery of them, like, ritualistic dancing with his
Yeah.
poetry piece or whatnot, and then just like the chaos that's ensuing and just ravenousness.
Well, okay. He had to kind of do it the way that he did with, like, you know, condensing, you know, I don't know if it's like man's history on Earth or whatever, but you kind of had to make it that quickly happen. Otherwise, it'd be a really fucking long, boring movie.
It
was. I was
I mean,
like,
it was
why are
already
we
2
watching?
hours long.
Why are we watching Jennifer Lawrence stare at this wall? Because we literally did that for like
She's
a good
taking a
3
pulse of the earth.
minutes. No,
Well, we
she's
had a-
staring at the wall and she's looking at the colors. Like she puts a color on and then she stares at it.
Well,
We
I
had
think
a
it was
pause
3
at one
minutes.
point.
I mean,
We had a pause it at one point in the movie, and we looked at it. I was like, "Man, we're only an hour into this thing." I'm like, "Holy crap, this thing feels a lot longer than what it's been."
So long.
yeah, could have been longer.
Oh no.
What if he has like a director's cut that's like 5 hours
Oh,
long?
no
Then
thank
it's
you.
whoever
It's like
wants to
what's
watch it, they
was
can,
it?
because
How
I'm
long
not.
is the 10 Commandments movie that they always show on fucking Easter? It's like isn't it like 4 hours long on TV?
As long as he
Maybe.
doesn't Lord of the Rings it, where he does a whole bunch of different add-ons to it.
Oh,
it makes
could you imagine like this movie like 3 parts or something? Like oh god.
I just
Oh.
kept getting mad at Jennifer Lawrence's character. I was like, tell that fucker he's not going on a hike and leaving you here with this weird ass woman. Like,
Maybe that's the whole. I mean, I don't know. All these metaphors and everything that we, you know, now that we know what everything's about, maybe that's Maybe this is like a big kind of F you to God from Aronofsky, that he's just kind of like, well,
Let's find out. Let's tweet him.
we're just your playthings that you keep screwing up.
Let's tweet Aronofsky and be like, hey,
Because of your own
we have questions.
pride.
Yeah, that
your movie
maybe
made me
that's
mad.
God's, sin, his pride.
It's like, your movie made me mad. I got questions.
Yeah, I'm sure he's hasn't heard that from like everyone that he's
I know.
ever, like just every random dude that's just like fucking like the mall or some shit, and he happens to be
mall.
there.
I don't
fucking know where Aronofsky goes.
I don't think he'd be the type of person
Yeah,
to
he's
go
in
to
a
the mall.
fucking Coco's on a Tuesday night, like Aronofsky. What the fuck is that movie about?
Cocos.
Yeah, I don't think he'd be going to all those places.
You don't know.
I don't think he would be.
Village Inn. He likes the pie.
Applebee's or Denny's.
I don't know what else to say about this movie. I don't have.
Angie's done.
I'm done.
She's done. I think she's done. Like as soon as the curtain was unveiled.
See, I should have let you gone through this whole fucking movie, but I feel like it would have been a 2-hour podcast if we would have just been like, all right, I'll tell you at the end what the movie's really about.
Well, like I got the whole symbolism, and I was like, okay, I can get on board with some of these shitty lines, and like, because some of the lines were stupid, but knowing they were metaphors and like seeing the imagery, I was like, okay, I can.
Like if you didn't know what they meant, like they're like, why would anyone say that? That's just dumb.
So I was like following along with it, and then I was like, okay, if it's hell, then none of that makes sense. And that's what I was really with the brothers when they're like, you know what this is, right? Like I was like, they know it's not real, and they know that they're just the side characters in somebody else's hell.
Yeah,
and so like that's how I kind of took it.
And that scene definitely kind of made me kind of was like, all right, so is it the Rosemary's Baby thing still? Because I don't know. Like,
yeah, because a lot of people were like, you don't know what this is.
Yeah.
And like I was like, okay, it's like so she's just not.
So
in
I
on
guess
it.
I don't know. I kind of took that now as knowing everything, that it's kind of like everything is ours now, kind of thing. Like
I
he gave it
guess.
to all of us. Like you don't even have a say anymore, kind of thing.
Oh, this movie was horrible.
Horrible.
It's our
Horrible.
Our first horrible movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this has been a movie like we've all been like,
Troll 2.
No, Troll 2 is
Troll
awesome.
2 was what it was. I appreciate how bad
Saying
it
it
was.
was what it was doesn't mean anything. So yes,
Well,
it was
Angie,
a film.
That's
that was
just
awful.
the way it's always been. So it's fine.
No,
Troll
it's
2 is
awful.
not open for interpretation.
Hey, you don't go
Awful.
into Troll 2 looking for fucking like
Yes, it was.
Casablanca.
It was about vegans.
But you don't go into it expecting fucking
See, another ew
the
message.
Godfather.
There's no symbolism in Troll 2.
Yes,
There's
there is.
no.
Yes, there is.
Well,
we
okay,
went into it in our
They
podcast.
tried to have the symbolism in Troll 2, but it was like, what the fuck is going on? I think because no one knew until way later that it was the whole meat thing. But even then, it's like lightly symbolic of the whole meat thing compared to this fucking
Still
movie.
awful. This movie is awful. Troll 2 is awful. Fuck everybody. Good night.
Is that your final thoughts?
Yes.
All right, what's your final thoughts, though? Fuck everybody, good night.
I can kind of grow an appreciation later now, knowing what it was. But even though now I know what it was, it still doesn't make me like it anymore. I'm kind of on Angie's side, as it makes me like it a lot less. Because I'm going to go back to what you said. I felt like I was duped to go into church for 2 hours.
You thought you were going to see some titties, but it ended up
We
being...
did see some titties.
No, I'm saying...
CGI titties the second
No.
time around.
No, in the
Wow.
beginning when you first
No.
see her, she's wearing that little...
So
Yeah,
all remembers
no.
that part. Huh?
I'm talking about the CGI. I was like, okay, so if you're gonna show your tits,
Is
through
it
your
the
top,
breastfeeding one or is it the other one?
It's both. It's the breastfeeding one, and then when
They were
they're
beating
beating
her.
her.
when
Yeah.
they're beating her, those aren't her tits.
I wasn't paying
They are
attention.
CGI
I didn't.
tits.
I didn't.
But what about the ones in the very beginning when she
Well,
gets up
I
out of bed?
assume either that's a body double or those.
I don't
are
think that was a
hers. I
body
don't know.
double. I think those were hers.
Well, she
Yeah,
doesn't.
those are
Yeah,
nice.
because she doesn't wear a bra the whole movie because she's Mother Earth. She's just, and she always wore like just kind of big baggy like comfortable clothes. Like she was always just kind of like
They were always
I'm
flowy.
comfortable. Like I'm one with Earth. I'm taking care of all this kind of thing.
Well, she wasn't because she wasn't pissy enough.
Well,
Get the fuck off my sink.
yeah, she needs more volcanoes than just eruptions.
I'm telling you, Mother Earth just needs to get more pissed and start
Yeah.
stabbing more people. Let's fucking kill
What's
everybody.
the Earth equivalent of stabbing people? Huh? Like earthquakes?
Yes. Plagues.
I don't think plagues were a Jesus. See, we needed the fucking old ladies.
We
to
don't
knock
need
people
people.
out.
Idiots.
I would have had questions for them. Let's get a nun on our podcast
A nun.
and watch probably the worst movie we could think of, like the worst horror movie.
I felt like I was duped into church for 2 hours. So because of that, like I said, it makes me not like it even more than I did. Like, I mean, when I first thought it, I was kind of like meh, like Angie, when I didn't know what it was. When we thought what it was, it made it meh. Now when I know what it actually is about, it makes me like it a lot less.
See, then there truly is no in between for this movie.
Yeah. So with that said, if you're curious on watching this movie, well, you've already listened to this and you're going to spoil it. It's going to be spoiled for you. Watch it knowing that and see if you enjoy it that much more or if you enjoy it that much less. But if you're watching it not knowing what it is,
you'll enjoy it less.
You'll probably be on our side, where it just changes your mind from being meh to either you really like it or you're really going to hate it. Now I see where the divide is after watching it and knowing what it's about.
Don't watch this movie. It's not worth it. You'll never get 2 hours of your life back.
Is that your final thought?
Yes. Final.
So I think the movie is very well done for what they're trying to get across. Like his whole metaphor of everything. I think he did a great like interpretation in making it into this whole house thing and all that. So I applaud his filmmaking for that and being able to translate this into that and make it make sense to a certain extent, I guess.
See, that I appreciate too.
The actual message that he's trying to give, I'm like, I don't know. Like I feel like it really does feel like you got tricked into it. Like you felt like you got tricked into a lecture about something and thinking, I'm going to go into this other thing, right? You said it was a buffet, but wait, not? Now it's not? Like that's, yeah.
You said it was a buffet, but it's a cold
I could
McDonald's
not eat
cheeseburger.
all I could eat.
So yeah. You're kind of just. I guess it's like I don't like movies that make you think. Like to a certain extent, every movie has to fucking do that. Like, they don't want to give away the ending. It's like, okay, what's the twist ending in this movie? And they show the trailer and all that. So you got to allow for some of that. But this one is kind of like, especially going into it, because I think I went into it also thinking like I never heard what it was about. So maybe it is Rosemary's Baby's kind of loose remake kind of thing. But once you figure it out, I'm like, oh, okay, well I figured it out, and I'm already invested in the fucking movie that I gotta finish this because we're gonna fucking talk about it. So
this movie pissed me off so much because they didn't do anything new. We've had that story. We've seen that story. Nothing new about that story was put into this movie except the metaphor was a house. That's what I think pissed me off, because now I'm just like, it's the same thing over and over and over again. I didn't really enjoy any of the artistic choices that Aronofsky took. Like I said, his camera work was shit in this movie to me. But yeah, I just think that he didn't do anything new. I think there was no point to that movie. Nobody
asked for that movie.
Nobody asked for that movie. Nobody needed that movie. I just feel like it was...
Nobody needs
it. It was a giant-ass nice house, though.
I didn't even really think that.
I don't know. I would like to see the third floor.
It would have been nice to see the rest of it.
Apparently, there wasn't that many rooms if they had to have the baby's room and the murder room. I'm like, it's not even next to your bedroom.
The murder nursery.
Like, how are you going to have a nursery that's down fucking stairs? Nobody does that. Nobody's
people
like
don't think about that when
getting up in
movies,
the middle of fucking night, walking down the
stairs. Nobody nitpicks about the fucking location of the nursery in every fucking movie.
Every time a baby fucking cries, I ain't walking my ass downstairs.
Like, why did I put them downstairs? Like, this was a terrible idea.
Yep. Terrible movie. Boo. Boo.
Official horror-ibile movie. Put a stamp on it.
The first one that we can all agree is horror-ibile. That's our very first one that we all three did not enjoy.
Yes.
Horror-ibile, the horror PSA stamp of horror-ibile movies is what this one gets.
I picture it black and green for some reason, like green lettering.
And it has to like look super pixelated, and it has to be the shittiest sort of
like, just so you're annoyed by looking at how horrible is.
It is horrible, and that makes you never want to look at the movie again.
Like, it looks like it's still downloading, but it's not. And it never will.
Exactly.
Horror-ibile.
Exactly. The horror-ibile stamp.
Major annoying.
Horror-ibile movies.
Yes.
All right, is that it then?
That is it.
That's it.
What is our next movie?
Us.
Next week is
Us. Okay.
Us. Well, shit, I'm scared to watch Us now. What if that's fucking horrible? I mean, I don't know.
Having seen Get Out, I'm not not too worried.
Yeah, neither am I.
I'm not worried, but I think it's the people who are listening to this podcast that have already seen Us are already laughing. We're watching Us next week.
Yes, we're watching Us next week from Jordan Peele.
And God help us.
God help us. God help us.
I'm gonna be mad
she has a line Michelle Pfeiffer says to Jennifer Lawrence, and she's like, "You do love him, don't you?" Like, God help you.
Yes. I was. Ugh. So was she like Satan?
I don't know what she was.
No, she's just regular woman that comes and ruins everything.
Eve.
Yeah.
That comes and ruins everything.
Well,
Damn,
she broke the crystal
With her vagina. I love how she's just like, we said we were sorry.
As
what else do
vaginas
you
do.
want for us?
She was Catwoman. She was being a cat, and she knocked shit over.
All right, I think that's it for this week. Like we said, we'll be back next week with us. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can email us at podcast@scarynerd.com. You can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can support us on Patreon by going to patreon.com/scarynerd. That is everything for this week. Do not watch this movie, kids. That is your horror PSA for this week. Do not watch this movie.
Enter at your own risk.
It's not great. You've seen all of these things before. It is horrible. And we will see you next week with us.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
You can find us on TikTok now.
Yes, we are on TikTok now. What? Saul didn't know. We're on TikTok now, kids.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
I know it's the end of the world. It ended when you said goodbye.